the Neil Haley Network's Dr. Christopher Hall show. I'm excited to welcome to the program Dr. Christopher Hall. Dr. Hall, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest today.
Oh, definitely doing great. I'm very excited about our guest because I think a lot of what we talk about on the program, she exemplifies that.
Oh, she definitely exemplifies that. We've talked about people that are in their adult age, that have succeeded in so many ways. And they started in certain things like Emma has, where she's been able to take herself and make her in another part, like separate herself from her peers. And a lot of that we talk about in this show at certain times when people take chances and opportunities. So go ahead and introduce our guest.
Well, no problem. It's my pleasure, okay, to introduce a senior at the Franklin Regional High School, a member of the marching band, and actually the recipient of this year's scholarship, the Macy's Bob Hope Band Scholarship that's been awarded to Emma Martin. Emma, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's so nice to be here.
Absolutely, Emma. Let's kind of talk about specifically a little bit about your background, first of all. How long you've been in the marching band, and did you ever think that, first of all, that you guys would march at Macy's and stuff like that? So kind of give us a little bit of that background.
Sure, right. So I started in the band in 4th grade, which is the earliest age you can do it. And both of my older sisters also started in the 4th grade. And throughout their band experiences, they were able to go to a lot of different parades like Pasadena, and they went to Macy's one time. So I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to, but I was certainly aware of the fact that we've been given those chances before, so it might be a possibility. But nonetheless, it was still very exciting to find out that we were able to go. And it was even more exciting to find out that I was able to participate in the experience of writing this essay for the Bob Hope family and the Bob Hope Foundation, and it was a very exciting experience.
And we'll get to the letter in a second in so many ways, but from that experience, you learned a lot about just the process of traveling and doing all these stuffs from your siblings, it sounds like. Getting used to what's going to take place at times with the band and going to different events.
Absolutely. And in the 8th grade, I was also asked to join the marching band to go to Pasadena. So I had a little more experience than some of my other peers, where I had done a big parade like this before, but nothing compares to Macy's.
All right, go ahead, Dr. Hall, with your question.
Wow, that's incredible, Emma. Well, this is such a very prestigious scholarship that you've earned. And so tell us a little bit about what did you learn about Bob Hope?
Sure, yeah. I naturally, me being from the younger generation, I didn't know much about Bob Hope because he wasn't on whenever I was little. But whenever I told my mom and dad about the scholarship opportunity and the prompt for the essay, they, of course, knew all about him, and they told me about how they watched him when he was little. And throughout the process of learning and reading about Bob Hope, I realized that he's not so different from people we have on the TV today, and how similar I was from him, which was the root of the essay prompt, was how you are similar to Bob Hope and you have the same characteristics as him. And so it was really interesting just to see the similarities between people of such different ages.
So what would you say similarities with you and Bob Hope? You're going to be an entertainer someday, Emma.
That is a dream of mine. In the high school, I work a lot, obviously, with the band. We went to Macy's. I'm also in chorus, and I'm in the musicals we do. His attributes obviously include comedy. I wouldn't say I'm very funny, but I think my friends think I'm funny. And obviously work with people. I'm in a lot of different clubs. I'm in NHS, SNHS, things like that.
Oh, wow. And that's interesting in that process. All right, Dr. Hall, what's your next question?
Wow, well, that's all incredible, Emma. We're very proud of you. And so you being in the band, do you think there's some things that you learned in the band? Sometimes that organization like that can give you certain, motivation, direction. What things you think you learned about being in band?
Throughout the experience of being in the marching band, I think anybody can learn a lot of things. I think one of the biggest things you learn is teamwork, though, because there's no way we could make it to that parade without everybody working together and everybody cooperating. And even people in the band from years before, working to get us to other places too. It's just so impressive and humbling to watch people work together to reach such a big goal and actually to achieve it. It's amazing.
So the qualities you talk about with Bob Hope, how much time did you take to put into this essay, and did you think you'd win when you wrote the essay? So those are, I guess, a twofold question. One is, how much time did you put into the research, and did you think you'd win?
Sure. The research aspect, I am one who just researches as I work. So I spent a good amount of time writing it, and then I also probably spent a couple of weeks revising it. I asked some teachers to read it and go through it with me. So overall, it probably took me a couple weeks to write. And I never thought I would win in a million years, because I was also up against people from my school to even choose who would be put in the ballot of people that would be chosen from the whole entire parade. And I didn't think I would win against the people who were in my school. So that was as much as a surprise as winning the actual thing.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I think that you didn't explain to us, Emma, is that you did not just win because Franklin Regional went. You competed against the other high school bands that did travel that wrote the same essay for Bob Hope as well.
Correct. Yeah, they asked each school to provide one essay written from one student about the same prompt, just how you are similar to Bob Hope. And they were all put into one competition, and they all chose one essay. The Hope family read them and chose one essay from the whole entire group.
Fabulous. Well, we can tell by just talking to you. I've interviewed celebrity that are your age, Emma, on my show, and they are not as articulate as you and have able to develop an interview as well as you are. So I can tell why you won, because I'm telling you, I've interviewed these celebrities and I could get maybe 2 words out of them. I'm blown away. I'm talking only to an 18-year-old. Go ahead, Dr. Hall, with your next question.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Emma is definitely extraordinary. And again, the Macy's Parade, I mean, it's viewed all over the world, okay? And so this is a very coveted scholarship. And, Emma, she's actually an honor student, okay? And so, Emma, tell us a little bit about, and she's made it look very easy, but how has it been trying to balance, academics in school and then being part of those extracurricular activities like a marching band?
Sure. Naturally, it's going to be hard for anybody, no matter what you're trying to balance. But I think that's one of the important things a high school can teach you, is how to balance your time and be able to prioritize what's actually important to you. And doing activities like band, and I'm also in chorus and musical, like I mentioned, with harder classes, with harder AP classes, has definitely taught me to prioritize and time manage and just really focus on the things that are most important to me at the time, while also trying to spend time with my family and still enjoy high school.
Wow, and that's
great.
Well, let's talk about the day of the parade, getting interviewed on television and being recognized. How crazy was that?
I never could have pictured myself there. If you told me a year ago that would have been happening on Thanksgiving morning, that would have been such a surprise. The whole experience in general, even just the parade, is surreal, because you see millions of people watching you from the streets, and then they pull you in front of the camera and they're saying all of these facts about you, and they're saying how you won the scholarship, and I still couldn't believe that I had won. And so it was just such a humbling experience. It was crazy.
Okay, Dr. Hall, next question.
Wow, that's incredible, Emma. Well, you know what? I mean, she's certainly been interviewed by lots of different media, and so I learned a little bit about her. And I think Emma has aspirations to go into nursing one day, a great profession. And so, how did you come up with that idea? And tell us a little bit about that, Emma.
I was inspired to be a nurse because my 2 older sisters are nurses, and my mom's a pharmacist, so healthcare kind of runs in the family. But I knew from even the first time I heard my oldest sister, Greta, talk about her nursing classes, that that's what I was the most interested in as a profession. And I just enjoy the idea of taking care of people and being able to help people in any way I can. And I found that that's the profession that really gives me that experience and gives me that time with people and making connections with patients. And so I hope to somewhere in the nursing field find my place where I work best.
That's tremendous, and I think that's the goal now. So let's talk about colleges. You're definitely looking at you probably have already just decided in colleges. You're a senior, right? So you pretty much know where you're going.
I have been accepted into a few schools, and I'm still waiting to hear back from some others. But I am very interested in the University of Pittsburgh and Duquesne University right here in Pittsburgh. So those are my top contenders right now.
Absolutely, and great schools for nursing for sure. All right, Dr. Hall, what any other questions do you have, or kind of a summary of Emma?
Yeah, pretty much. I think Emma's answered all the questions I can really think of. I guess just a summary. I mean, those are certainly great schools. And, myself being a medical doctor for the last 12 years, I've worked around, I'd say, thousands of nurses, okay? And it's clear and obvious that Emma has those great qualities that would make her an excellent nurse. And so I'm very proud of her. And I think she exemplified all of those great characteristics that we love to see in America's youth. So congratulations, Emma. We're very proud of you.
Thank you so much. It's so sweet of you to say.
All right, fantastic. And we could check out to find out more information on Emma by going to bobhope.org and find out about the Macy's. Emma's winning the Macy's Bob Hope Band Scholarship, and check out all this different information. So I appreciate you coming by. Thanks again.
Of course.
Thanks, Emma.
All right, thanks. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Dr. Christopher Hall Show, and take care, everyone. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show, and I'm excited about our guest today. I love talking sports, and I love Triumph Books, and we're going to talk Packers today. And as a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, one of the biggest sad things was the Packers beating us in the Super Bowl. And I had talked to a couple Packer players about that awesome memory, but I'm excited to welcome the program author Jason Wilde, author of The Big 50, Green Bay Packers, the men and moments that made the Green Bay Packers. Jason, thanks for calling. How are you?
Oh, Neil, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, buddy.
I just, when I think Green Bay Packers, you think tradition. Between us and meaning Pittsburgh Steelers and Green Bay Packers, it is the true tradition of professional football. And the NFL, those two travel everywhere you go, right? There are Packer fans at every stadium, as there are Steeler fans at every stadium. It's one place that they people from the Milwaukee area and Green Bay area, they basically always end up relocating, just kind of like Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, it's really remarkable how both those team fan bases travel. And obviously when you play each other in a Super Bowl like the Packers and Steelers did in 2010, you really got a feeling, I'll never forget this, being around Dallas that week, of how similar those fan bases are. You know, there's certainly a blue-collar element to a lot of the fans. They're passionate. They love their team. They live and die with their teams. And that's not always the case with all NFL fan bases. And so, the fact that they put their money where their fandom is, right, with whether it's how many jerseys they own or how willing they are to spend their travel budget of their family to go to games in different cities. It's really remarkable how supportive both those teams are. And, obviously for much of my career, I covered a guy who was from Pittsburgh and who grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, who brought what Ted Thompson called Pittsburgh macho to Green Bay.
Yes.
And that was Mike McCarthy, who obviously had a bunch of success here in his 13-year run as the head coach.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about your background really quick, Jason, getting into this interview, because we do have some time. I love having a producer because I just can enjoy asking questions I might not have the time for in my normal studio type days. But tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, this is year 26 for me on the beat. I started out as a backup and really kind of learning the ropes of covering the NFL. The great thing is when you've been doing it this long and covering 3 different Super Bowl teams, and you just accumulate so many stories and so much experience. I don't like to think of myself as an old guy because when I started out, I was lucky to be a really young guy. But the institutional knowledge and the things you get to see during your time being on a beat, and covering a team year in and year out and being at every game, you just have such a great feel for the history that you're just fortunate to be there to chronicle. And so I've been really lucky to be able to do this for as long as I have. I hope I get to do it for another 20 plus years. But, there's been great seasons for the Packers. There's been down seasons during my time, but there's also been some really compelling seasons that didn't end in Super Bowl titles, but certainly ended in unforgettable games and things that I got to see that I think anyone who believes that sports are a very valuable part of our society and mean a lot to a lot of people, it was cool to be able to be a part of it.
It seems like it was cool to be part of that type of thing in the tradition. We talk about the Rooneys, and we'll get into the Big 50. I'm going to try to come up with what I think when you talk about Packers and what you wrote about in the book. But when you talk about organizations, you talk about the Steeler organization with the Rooneys. What being part of the Packer organization, do they have that kind of same family feel with the owners of the Packers?
They do, and the beauty of it is obviously they're community owned, that they sell stock that fans are actually able to own for $250 or whatever. They can only do it every so often. They haven't had a stock sale in a long time now, number of years since they expanded part of their stadium, but that they don't have the next best thing to having the Rooneys as your owner is to not have an owner at all. And you've seen obviously with the Steelers what stability they have had there for so long with first Chuck Noll and then with Bill Cowher, and we've obviously there's been some ups and downs during Mike Tomlin's tenure, but there's just this, they're never that team in either the Packers case or the Steelers case where you look at them going, God, they don't seem like they know what they're doing. It just isn't the case anymore. With most other teams, there's always those years where you're like, God, what are they doing? And do they have a plan? And, even now you look at the Steelers and the season that they've endured and the things they've done at quarterback and the fact that they're still in contention, I think says a lot. The Packers weren't able to do that when they lost Aaron Rodgers in 2013 and again in 2017. So, that's one way that this franchise obviously has been very fortunate, that there have been very few times where they've had either Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers not available to them to lead them to a lot of victories.
We have the Duck. Come on now, Jason. That's why. The Duck. I brought up with the author of the Browns, Zach. I said to him, I predicted this before. I said, he's going to be a good quarterback. And it's not going to be Mason Rudolph. So we have the Duck. Spurgis loves the Duck. I guess if he wins another game, they're going to already get ready to name a street after him. But again, we'll see how long that love of the Duck goes. But let's go. You didn't have the great backup when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So how many years of the Packers do you cover in this book?
So we cover them from their inception to modern day. And obviously it's hard to narrow 100 years of football into 50 chapters. And so my good buddy Drew Olson wrote the more historic chapters, and I focused on the nearly quarter century of time I'd covered the team for my chapters. And, my favorite story that has come out of doing the book, Ron Wolf was the Packers general manager who rebuilt this franchise and brought them back from oblivion and traded for Brett Favre and signed Reggie White and hired Mike Holmgren. And he and I got together, and he was here in town a couple weeks ago, and he said, I've got a bone to pick with you. I'm like, what? There's a Pro Football Hall of Famer that's telling you he's got a bone to pick with you. He's like, how do you pick Super Bowl 45 as the number one thing in your book? Well, first of all, I was really excited that he actually even looked at our book. But more importantly, I had to explain to him, it's not a ranking. So there's 50 chapters, but that's the most recent triumph that they've had. It's not the most important
100 things, right?
It was just most recent. So after that, he calmed down and he didn't have a bone to pick with me anymore.
So that's not 100 things. The 100 things live and die Packers. Then that definitely wouldn't have been number one, right?
No, I think there's just so much to get to it. frankly, we could have done 3 books of 50 things and still had stuff left over.
Writing the book on your end, looking at specifically the Packers, what did you do in your research to try to figure out what's the best things to fit in when there's just so many great memories the Packers have?
Yeah, it was obviously a challenge to narrow it down. The nice thing for me anyway is because of my career arc, I was here for so many of those moments. And, I wasn't there obviously for the Lombardi years. I wasn't even alive yet for most of them. But the fact that I covered most of the things that I write about in the book it really did make things kind of easy for me, because from a research perspective, I went back and read my stories and read other people's stories and refreshed my memory, but I lived through most of the parts that I wrote about. So I was really fortunate in that. I was able to think back to what I was thinking about back then when those things were happening and have that perspective of having lived through them.
You definitely had that, and that's the interesting thing. When I think of Green Bay Packers, I think Brett Favre. You just think one of the gunslingers. How amazing was it to watch him play?
Yeah, it was really incredible, and it's hard to believe that a franchise like the Packers have been able to have 2 back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks in him and Rodgers. It's just funny because they're just such different guys. I mean, Favre, you used it. He was a gunslinger. He took so many chances, and not only did he retire at the time with the most touchdown passes in NFL history, he also retired with the most interceptions in NFL history. Whereas Rodgers, he's going to be a Hall of Famer also, and he's going to go in with almost assuredly with the best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history, because he's going to have so few interceptions. They're just vastly different guys, and yet they were both great in their own right. And I think, obviously for Rodgers, it's kind of like with Ted Thompson and Ron Wolf. It's different when you continue a tradition as opposed to when you restore a tradition. And obviously Wolf and Holmgren and White and Favre were responsible for restoring a tradition that had become so tarnished over almost 3 decades that it's just a lot different than what it is with what Aaron Rodgers has done in recent years.
The difference between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre in comebacks. You think of, Brett Favre, the gunslinger, taking the chances, but then you think of Aaron Rodgers as the Hail Mary, the guy that just pulls stuff out you wouldn't imagine. And you wouldn't think that coming out of college he would be this kind of quarterback, the one that you want with 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, and there was a time in his career where he wasn't that guy. He didn't have a lot of come from behind victories, and people questioned that. And, I always said that during those his MVP seasons, he had a lot of game-winning drives. They just happened in the third quarter where they put teams away early. 2011 when they went 15-1. And so, they are definitely different. It's crazy that they are now good friends after the craziness of the summer of 2008, which obviously is a significant chapter in the book as well. And so it's been truly my pleasure and honor to get to cover both of them and watch up close firsthand 2 great quarterbacks in the same organization. I assume it's what it was like for guys in the 80s and 90s that got to cover Joe Montana and then got to cover Steve Young.
And let's talk about what happened. I don't know what happened because I'm in Pittsburgh. Sometimes so tell us the story between you put in the book about Favre and Rodgers and their fallout, or how they didn't get along.
Yeah, they definitely did not. Rodgers was probably a little brash and a little arrogant as a first-round pick, and was certainly humbled by the way his first 3 years were spent on the bench. But Brett Favre was not a very good mentor to him, and I think Brett has since admitted that on a number of occasions. And so, now they're in a great place, which is wonderful, but they definitely were rivals. And that the summer of 2008 when, I'll never forget, they had a family night scrimmage, which is basically a pep rally, and we talk about it in the book, a pep rally and a celebration of being a Packers fan. They charge $10 admission, and they have fireworks, and it's just it's just meant to be a night to celebrate being Packers fans, and people that don't get to go to games because they can't afford them can afford the $10 ticket to watch a practice. And I'll never forget, Brett Favre comes in that day, flies in, and they're going to finally resolve his situation. And Packers fans booed Aaron Rodgers during a family night scrimmage. And he says, even to this day, as he travels to family night every year when he drives from his house to go to family night for practice, he thinks about that and how it spurred him on, and what it was like to be booed by your own fans. And, you know, I know there's a lot of fans that after the fact can now acknowledge what a huge mistake that was and how thankful they are that Aaron Rodgers was their quarterback.
And what a quarterback. And for sure, and continue to be a quarterback. And then, but I guess everyone, if you know you're a Favre fan, you thought the Packers are done, right? Last year, McCarthy leaves. You're not going to make a comeback and have a good season. What the heck? And I know that's not in the book, but it's great for sales, right? They're not 3-9 and doing horribly. They're really doing well. That's got to be great for you with the book coming out instead of what if it was a mediocre year.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not a mediocre book, but it definitely has not been a mediocre year, and that's been great. You know, I don't know much about sales. I let the great people at Triumph handle that kind of stuff. But I will say this. It has been a fascinating year to see because, you know, I think what people are probably forgetting as they look at the Packers now, who are 9-3 going into their game against Washington, no rookie Packers head coach has ever taken his team to the playoffs, ever. 100-year team, and Lombardi didn't do it, Holmgren didn't do it, McCarthy didn't do it, and all three of those guys won Super Bowls. And so I think that tells you how rarefied the air is that Matt LaFleur is in his first year.
Matt LaFleur is not in the book, is he?
I believe he is mentioned only because we finished the book after Mike McCarthy was fired and after Matt LaFleur was hired. But it takes a while for those books to hit the bookshelf. So quite frankly, I can't quite remember what the timeline is for when I had to file my last chapter.
I said what happens with me is I don't have a chance to watch books. I just stream different things, different films, different things. I wish I had time to read all the books of the authors I read. I just have good knowledge of different things. Say, hey, it was in the book, and it's good for the fans. Now let's talk about Matt LaFleur. You cover the Packers. Were you surprised how quickly they turned it around with this coach?
Not entirely. I thought they would go 10-6 and make the playoffs, and he would break that streak. I did not think they would be as good as they have turned out to be, certainly. But look, they have Aaron Rodgers. They have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and while he has had some up and down games this season, he is still one of the best in the business. And I think that gives any young coach more of an opportunity for success than most other young coaches who are coming into a team that are often rebuilding and often have shortcomings in terms of their roster. In this case, this was not a total rebuild. They were bold, and Brian Gutekunst was bold to go out and get a couple of really good pass rushers in Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. So they filled that void. Their defense has been up and down, but certainly has gotten after the quarterback better than they have. And their offense has new ideas that were not there under Mike McCarthy. So you put that all together, and you have a team that has been far more competitive than I think a lot of people expected it to be.
That's great news for you as a Packer fan. Any chance you're going to laugh at me? Now, I mean, everyone in Pittsburgh is going to laugh at me too. Of Steelers-Packers Super Bowl again. Somehow the Steelers make a run in the table and they beat Baltimore or New England and make the Super Bowl and face the Packers.
I'm not going to laugh at you because I certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk about the book. But yeah, I don't think either one of those teams are going to. Frankly, I don't think either one of those teams is going to be in the Super Bowl. That's not just a slight on the Steelers. I don't think the Packers I think the Packers are a good team, but I think they're a year away from being a true title contender. They're going to get some great experience. And hey, if Rodgers can get really, really hot, maybe he can carry them all the way to Miami. But they strike me as a team that still has too many holes to be a champion.
See, I think the Packers have a better shot than the Steelers. I just brought up that point. And here's the reason why. The NFC is always up for grabs. Every year, you don't always expect the best team in the NFC to make the Super Bowl. So the dark horse could be the Packers. Now in the AFC, that's crazy to think the Duck leads them to the Super Bowl. But this reminds me of the year with the Bus. We had a great defense. We were 7-5. We ran the table, and we won every game on the road with Ben Roethlisberger. Now, this is you're probably laughing, Jason, saying, are you kidding me? But if this happens, you have to come on and say, Neil, you were right. I am impressed by your prediction, or you were just totally drinking the Kool-Aid. But we will probably name a street after the Duck if the Steelers run the table and face the Packers in the Super Bowl or any NFC team. No chance.
Yeah, you can book it. I will be happy to do that because you will have definitely earned that.
What are the odds on that? I need to see the Vegas odds on that one. That one would be.
Neil, the reality is that I'm not a fan and you are, so you should have that mentality. You keep hope alive, man. I love it, but I think realistically, I won't have to worry about having to come on to admit that I was wrong and you were right.
Well, maybe your book continues to have that great success. Tell us about the books, signings and stuff, places you're going to be in for the Packers books. You're not finished yet.
No, it's the holiday season, and obviously, folks, I have a great little story. The Packers official seamstress who sews all the uniforms and puts the nameplates on the back. She's an amazing woman who has been here talk about institutional knowledge. She's been here far longer than I have. And she came up to me in my office here at Lambeau the other day and said, "Hey, I bought your book. Would you sign it for me?" And I just melted. She bought it as a gift for each of her sons. And I thought, gosh, how nice is that? And thanks for supporting my girls' college fund by doing it. So, the easiest thing for me, and I haven't done much promotion. I'm just not much of a promoter, but, if people just want to check me out on Twitter at Jason J. Wilde, there's a link in there you're able to find the book on Amazon and find it on Barnes and Noble. And you can certainly tweet to me and I'd be happy to send you a signed copy if anybody actually wants to reduce the value of the book by having me sign it.
All right. So you said your favorite moment was the Packers beating the Steelers. That's Super Bowl. Yes. Am I right on that?
No, it was one of them. I think my favorite moment was covering the first Super Bowl they were in '96 in this new renaissance. I was 24 years old. I had no idea what I was doing yet, but it's kind of like players say. I know I've heard Dan Marino say this. You go early in your career, you think you're going to do it all the time. And the Packers went to 2 Super Bowls in 2 years in my first 2 years covering the team. And, it took them until 2010 to get back, and now here we are in 2019, and they're probably not going to get back this year. So it really is a difficult thing, no matter what the Patriots make it seem to the contrary. So every season has to be special, and you have to hope that as a fan, that it gets to where you want it to go.
All right. Well, fantastic. And it was interesting you said you're not a fan. Were you a fan before you became a sports writer?
I grew up a sports fan, no question, but it's just when you cover a team, it just changes the dynamic a lot. You kind of see behind the curtain, and I just always tell people I don't try to explain it. It's hard to explain, and I think there's no point in explaining it other than to say this. I am just so, and I mean this sincerely, I'm so thankful that there are so many Packers fans that are so loyal and so passionate because of them being that way. It allows me to pay my mortgage and write about this team every day and talk about it on the radio every day and write a book like this. So I really owe it to them. And I'm thankful that they care as much as they do, because without that, this is not the opportunities are just not what they are for other teams that just aren't as passionate as Packers fans are.
So I just told a sports guy on the radio from the Packers the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl. Oh, my. You're going to have fun with that one after you get off the air with me. But, hey, I just showed that I have that gumption. I'll put out that different stuff, Jason, but I appreciate you calling. Again, we can purchase the book at TriumphBooks.com. We all know that because Triumph Books is a phenomenal publisher. I love working with them, and I love talking sports. It was a dream of mine to always get to interview sports people and talk sports, and it happened based on creating my own thing in my own system. And now, if you didn't know, you're on the VIP Internet Radio launch as well. We're going on syndication. Well, VIPInternetRadio.com is the radio station I'm program director that we're building this big internet conglomerate as well. And we continue to grow, and we're glad to have you on, and we're glad to partner with Triumph Books. But you purchase your book, all finer bookstores as well, right? And especially in Green Bay. But Triumph Books is the best place, or even Amazon, right?
That's exactly right. And Neil, congratulations on all your success. Thanks for letting me be a small part of it today.
No, I'm going to reach out to you, and I'm going to have to go and check you out on your sports show and see if you're really this humble guy, or you go and get angry like a lot of, especially if the Packers lose a game or something. But you're great. Thanks for calling. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, Neil. Thanks. Take care. Be good.
All right, take care. Okay, bye-bye. All right, that was
all right.
All right, so we're finishing up. Why don't you go ahead and go and show our not our podcast page, but our just like what people can go to VIPInternetRadio.com right now, just to check out a lot of the great interviews we've done. And Pete's going to go grab that. That's going to tell the story of how Michael and I got started because Warner Brothers reached out to me. So if we go to the latest shows, that's probably going to be the best place to go.
Yep, I'm there.
Yeah. So Michael, the story is kind of funny how we reconnected. We've been friends on Facebook forever. We're childhood friends. We grew up together, and I needed your help. And so that's how we got connected to doing a show, right?
Right.
Which is pretty unreal after you saw it today, right? Me live with Phil Bork and,
Yeah.
and talking to, Duke the Dumpster Drosy and all these different things. And he's just pulling up right now. Two of the interviews, we were also remembering Shelly Morrison. So this is one of Shelly's interviews from 2014. She was Rosario in Will and Grace. So people got to check that out. I interviewed Project Runway this week and Mark L. Wahlberg. Scroll down and you're going to find Warner Brothers reached out to me and they started sending me reviews. They said, well, we need a review. Michael watches more shows than I do, right? Mike, explain that.
Yeah, I do watch quite a bit.
It's going to be a couple into the archive. You'll find it says Warner Brothers. And you watch a lot. You stream tons of stuff. And
yeah.
And you're perfect for us to create a Siskel and Ebert thing. I'm not seeing the internet moving, Peter. Are you moving it?
Well, I don't know how. Yeah, Siskel and Ebert's a little highbrow. I'm more lowbrow.
Yeah. Pete, are you there? It seemed like it just froze.
No, I'm here.
No, move it all the way down to the archive. Unless you want to search, maybe we'll search our global thing. Why don't you search Warner Brothers up in our global search? We'll see if it works.
We can do that.
Warner Brothers. We never know how these global searches work. Let's see.
Well, this is within the website.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we want. Okay, keep going. Let's see what else comes up. JD Shapiro. Okay, here's a good. So he has been on Supernatural is one of the shows we reviewed, right? Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike? So some of these shows keep going down. So this is what we do is we have the celebrity portion, but we also review different shows. So we discussed Supernatural season 14 that came out. Thank you again, Warner Brothers. Did anything else come up from Warner Brothers or not in your search? Let's see.
No, just those two.
Interesting. Okay.
What's the name? What else is in the name of that other one?
What's it called? Doom. Just type
Doom
in
Patrol.
Doom Patrol. That's how it started. I asked him, anyone watch Doom Patrol? And Michael came up and said, oh, yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
I watched Doom Patrol, and so I said to myself, okay, based on that, you are going to review this with me. And what did you think when I just said, just come on the radio with me? That's kind of funny, right?
Yeah, I just said, well, it should be funny at least.
Yeah, you didn't know it was going to be. And I said, oh, and then we came up with the Thinking Through the Trees thing. So all of our shows are archived at VIPinternetradio.com. It's a great thing to show, Pete, right? That people can go in and then they could just listen to it anytime, anywhere. If I've interviewed that guest, and they can do searches, they can Google certain things. It's all available. But we did a bunch of Warner Brothers stuff, and
Well, and we have the whole schedule. So, I mean, we have, every
Exactly.
hour scheduled out all week.
And
We're on
Michael
Friday
forgot-
here, obviously.
Exactly. Michael forgot, and it was kind of funny. Michael, when, you probably thought after the Warner Brothers, oh, he's not going to call me, right? Well, we'll do something. And then bam, what came out? The Sopranos, which was pretty, wasn't it?
That was,
So
that
that was really cool. Again, shout out to Michael Mata with Sopranos Con, but also shout out to Armin Garrow, who was our first guest from Talking Sopranos. And oh my gosh, Armin was a phenomenal guest, wasn't he?
phenomenal. Yeah.
He was just
Real interesting guy.
phenomenal guy. And just your questions you come up with. Do you spend a lot of time coming up with these questions? Because they're very good questions.
Well, to be honest, I don't want to sound stupid, so yeah, I spend a couple hours thinking about some questions.
And I don't think about anything. I just go. And I don't know.
You just fly off the cuff.
I don't know what that gift means or whatever. It's funny. I thought everyone could ask questions like I do. The first show I ever did, Michael, at WRCT Studios, I get these educators to be my co-hosts. We're talking education. And I thought, okay, we're interviewing somebody. They're going to come up with a good follow-up question, right, Michael? None of them come up with a follow-up question. I can come up with a follow-up question for anything. It doesn't matter what you ask. And then whatever the answer is, I'm going to come up with that follow-up question. And that's what the great interviewers do is come up with the next question to ask based on how you answer it. So that's but today, I guess we just talked about how we met, but I really want to talk a little bit more to kind of close out. And then the Mr. Rogers, we had to talk about Mr. Rogers movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and getting to be on the red carpet. That was pretty cool. And we talked about that, but we're going to talk about a film. And we reviewed our first film in a way by interviewing the director last night, and that's not even live yet. All that stuff will be live, I hope, if I have the right speed internet access wise, because I'm traveling and leaving for Houston on Sunday. And I know I'm going to be tired as can be when finally this happens. But again, this whole hypnosis thing, Michael, I'm just going to throw it right to you about that movie. It's just really great for sure. Talk about it.
Obviously it's a lot to do with, especially now in this day and age where people are there have been some robberies that happened from 1990 to now that they were, I wouldn't say hypnotized, but persuaded to do robberies. So it's a really good area to get hypnotized. So we saw this movie called Murderous
Trance. Yeah, Murderous
Trance. Right.
Murderous Trance. Yeah.
Right. I'm going by the movie. They renamed it.
Yes.
So anyway, guy goes in to rob a bank, robs the bank, kills a couple people, gets away, and the cops and he just goes on this tangent about guardian angels, and so they don't really know what to make of it. And then they follow up with some stuff, and they meet this guy who then turns out he has hypnotized the first guy to rob the bank. And that's where the movie goes, down this dark hole where hypnotism has come into play.
Yeah, in which
And
this took place during the Nazi, right after World War II. And they're
right,
really entrenched in Nazism. There were lots of people that were still Nazis that had to change their lives back from being a Nazi to a different mindset. And to see it in another country, not, you're used to seeing it in specifically, let's say Germany, how Nazi Germany, there were still lots of Nazis part of the movie, meaning they had not changed Hitler's mindset, even though they lost the war.
well, they're hiding out too. So that's the other thing. So either they found out you were still a Nazi or you're hiding something.
And then it talked about specific things that you noticed in the movie, that the chief of police was a Nazi and the other guy was not. And there were specific things that they were letting people go based on was involved in being a friend of the Nazis. And that still kind of split apart the people in Finland, right?
Right. Well, so yeah, it was a rough time after the war. Especially you don't hear much about that. Well, especially in America, you don't see that a lot from other countries. So if you were a Nazi sympathizer, you got looked down upon after the war.
You most definitely did. And it just was, but again, I think that Josh Lucas did an unbelievable job in the film. And guess what? I just got a text.
Oh yeah, he was.
Josh could not make it because he is, and that's when you deal with different things that happen. I got the text. Where was it? I think they said he's in another country right now. So that's nice to know. But
right.
that I don't know where it said. I think he said it was Denmark right now. He said, "Oh no, it didn't." I just said I guess Josh wasn't available. But again, it's all about when you work with the film. But I really enjoyed this because what my goal was, and again, it's in Pittsburgh tonight. In McKees Rocks, people got to go see the film. This is a film out in the theaters, and I'm excited to be working with films like this because if this had a blockbuster budget, this film would do really well. It has done well all over the world. It just started in the States, and it goes back to distribution.
Right. It won't. I mean, here's the best part about this. If you enjoy films and you enjoy history, you'll really enjoy
this. Like this movie. Exactly. I can't, we tell people when we review these things, we're going to have to tear certain things apart. I'm going to have to kind of let them know that just because we reviewed it, but I would really like this because when Michael watched it, Michael reminded me, I said, oh gosh, I'll watch it. And I'm like, wow, okay. That was great. That was great. And I'm like, holy cow. And I'm like, I gotta, you watched it again. And that was a powerful thing. But the goal, what we're going to do with Thinking Through the Trees is Michael's trying to get me connected more in Pittsburgh. And he's got feelers and he's not giving up till we keep getting bigger and bigger stars. It kind of, I think, Pete, the perfect thing for VIP Internet Radio's logo is that star, because we have stars in the building that are bringing more stars on, and that's going to be a huge thing. And we did a great job of pulling off at least these 3 hours live. Did you get a chance to listen to any of the Phil Bourke interview?
I did.
Yeah.
What was interesting is how I caught the end where, you're talking about pay. When he first started, he had to have a job.
Yeah.
Outside of hockey.
Exactly.
And now these guys are getting paid well. Well, it's a year-round job now. Because let's be honest, you have to be in shape year-round.
Yeah, we do. And I was interested in the CTE thing as well. I didn't, and now people are kind of identifying it, even though you can't diagnose it till you die in certain ways. that now we're finally seeing those symptoms happening. And we all know, Mike and I know definitely about CTE in certain ways.
Yes.
And a little different than me. Chair shots from pro wrestling, trash cans, telephones, everything in the world. If you listen to the interview with Duke the Dumpster, that was interesting as well. So we're the review, but what I'm impressed with is the questions that Michael's able to come up with, and they love them, because that's the one thing I brought up, Michael, is I am good at carrying any co-host, aren't I?
Well, yeah, you're carrying me, so we'll have to
And that's a tall order, but that's the
that's
thing.
a tall order for sure.
That's what we meaning the weight, not your intelligence. Now, here's the thing that's interesting.
Yeah.
The interesting part of all this is that if you want to become a radio host of VIP Internet Radio, or you want to do a show, I'm the perfect person to co-host with, so you can learn the craft, understand things, and still keep your busy day. Just show up, I do the rest, and we have fun. And I'm that keeps that dead air going. There's a story about dead air. Let's see if Pete knows about dead air on terrestrial radio. Do you know about that, Pete?
Ask the question again, please.
The dead air on terrestrial radio. Do you know about the dead air rule?
That you're not supposed to basically have more than so many seconds of dead air?
Yeah, it's just a second.
I thought it was 5.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought was 5.
No.
Yeah, 1 second's too short. I don't think it's 1.
I don't know. Look it up. We'll have to look that
I'll
up.
look it up and I'll tell you in a minute.
I try to make it 1 second ever on my show of dead air. I refuse.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, yeah.
And it works. Maybe 2. But dead air is in terrestrial radio. But I was trained in the terrestrial industry, and I've stuck to it. But Pete's looking that up as a point. I don't know if you knew today was microwave day. Did you know that?
Microwave day? What?
Yeah, today's microwave oven day. National Microwave Oven Day.